Rice cookers are not just limited to cooking rice, so I'm going to show you how to make some delicious ribs using just a rice cooker. And in my Japanese suburban kitchen today, we're going to make rice cooker ribs. This is based on a Japanese recipe, but I've jazzed it up and I've added some chili and garlic and made it a lot richer. This makes it a lot less Japanese, but in my opinion, a lot more tasty. If I were to make this in a more traditional way, making a nimono or stew, then I would probably use the same meat, but I would use a different mix of vegetables such as daikon and carrot. I definitely wouldn't use any chili or garlic, and I would make the sauce a lot thinner. But screw all that, today we're making something that is rich and deep and so flavorful. Although this is a relatively low fuss recipe, there is one ingredient that might cause you some trouble if you don't live in Japan. And that is this hairy little fellow. And this is a satoimo. This is also known as a taro root in English, but a literal translation of the Japanese would be a village potato. This is a buttery and creamy potato like no other. But it is incredibly hard to find, so here is a list of substitutes that you can use instead. But no matter what you end up using, let's take a look at what other ingredients you'll need to make these rice cooker ribs. You will of course need some ribs, but what's going to make this dish really deep and flavorful is the garlic and miso. I am also using some Togarashi peppers, which will give it a bit of a kick alongside our ginger, but these can be omitted entirely or replaced with another form of mild chili pepper. So if you've managed to source some satoimo or taro root, I think I'll just call it taro root from now on, then it's time to prepare them. These are like a funky potato. They have a dirty and hairy exterior, so we're going to wash them and peel them. I found that the easiest way to deal with these taro root is to put them in a sieve in a bowl of water. Then you can rub them against the sieve to get rid of the dirt, and it will even take off some of the hairs and make the peeling much easier. But this does mean that you'll have a bit of a tough time washing the sieve afterwards. So now we're going to chop off the top and the bottom of the taro root because it is a lot tougher and will ruin the texture. And we're going to peel them. I find it a lot easier to peel these with a knife rather than a peeler, and to use that flat side that we cut off to keep them sturdy because they do get kind of slimy and hard to handle. Usually the taro root are quite small, so I'll just leave them whole, but when we have slightly bigger ones, then I'll cut them into 2 or 3. And they can still be pretty dirty, so I do like to give them a second rinse after I have peeled them. So now let's put these to one side. If you don't have taro root, this is where you would prepare your substitute vegetables. If you're using potato, then wash them and peel them, and cut them into chunks about this big, which is about 2 inches. I would recommend peeling whatever vegetable you are going to use. Now we're just going to prepare our ginger by peeling it and slicing it. And put that to one side. Next up is something that I love to put in most of my savory dishes, which is garlic. Today I'm just going to put in a few whole cloves, so we're just going to peel them. And put those to one side. So now those are all prepared, let's make our sauce. We're just going to add in all of the liquid ingredients except for the miso. The miso does not dissolve very well in cold water, so I'm going to just put that straight into the rice cooker itself. So now we're just going to combine our sugar, our soy sauce, mirin, sake, and water. Now let's put everything into the rice cooker. I'm going to start with the ribs because I want them to soak up as much sauce as possible, so we put them on the base so they'll just soak up all those flavors. Then we're going to add our pre-prepared taro, ginger, and garlic. Wait a second, these are huge. That's better. Now I'm just going to add in a few of these Togarashi peppers. These are a type of very mild Japanese pepper, but they're dried, so that makes them a little bit spicier. So when I cut them up, then they do add quite a nice kick to dishes. But I'm just adding a few of these, so it's not going to make the dish actually spicy. It's just going to give it a bit more depth. You can of course replace this with any chili pepper that you want or completely omit the chilies, it's up to you. Just remember that these are quite mild in comparison to a Mexican chili or something like that, so use substitute chilies with caution. Now we're going to add our miso. I like to measure out my miso and then add it in smaller pieces around the bowl, because that way it has a lot more chance to dissolve into the sauce. And then pour our sauce over everything. And everything doesn't need to be completely submerged in the sauce, but do try to make sure that everything is at least in contact with the sauce. And that's it. So now we're just going to put this into the rice cooker. Whilst that's cooking, I'm just going to chop up some green onion for a garnish. To do this, I have a small section of the white part of a green onion. So I'm going to chop this in half and then take out the middle. I'll be using the middle for something else. And then I'm just going to keep these layers but flatten them out and chop it into very thin strips. And this will just add something fresh to our ribs. Okay, looks like it's done, so let's plate it up. And I'll show you what I mean about these buttery potatoes. After its time in the rice cooker, everything has cooked perfectly and the satoimo have kept their shape. And the meat comes straight off the bone, flavoured with our deep sauce. Chopsticks go straight through that taro root, giving us a buttery and creamy potato like no other. And the ginger and spice give it a wonderful kick that just bring out the best of everything. It may be hard to find that taro root, but this otherwise relatively low-fuss recipe will not disappoint. That's it for today, so I'll see you next Sunday.